This is Barry Goldsmith, Warning Coordination Meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Brownsville, serving the Rio Grande Valley, welcoming you to your virtual guide for the National Weather Service's Tropical Cyclone Potential Impact Graphics web pages. This guide will provide an overview for how you can retrieve and use the impact graphics to help you prepare for an approaching tropical storm or hurricane. The best way to explain how to use the web pages, we've created fictitious hurricane red drum. The fictitious cyclone is a growing Category 4 hurricane, which is forecast to create a range of impacts from wind, flooding from the sea, flooding on land, and tornadoes, along with impacts from mariners along the waterways of the lower Texas coast. This impact shows red drum at landfall. In reality, the potential impacts you will evaluate will be viewed 1 to as many as 3 days prior to the arrival of most critical hazards. So let's begin. First, surf to weather.gov/RGV to open the National Weather Service webpage for the Rio Grande Valley and Deep South Texas region. Tropical Cyclone Impact Graphics, or TCI for short, will typically begin at the issuance of a hurricane watch covering any portion of the valley. In most cases, a banner headline will link to the TCI webpage. In our fictitious case, the headline might read, "Dangerous Hurricane Red Drum Approaching the Lower RGV." If the banner headline is not available, you can find TCI by sliding your mouse to the left-hand menu and clicking on Tropical Impacts. We'll do that now. This opens up the TCI page. The page has 3 parts, starting with a description and left-hand menu focusing on the hazard highlighting in the graphical tab bar, in this case wind. The choices include pick another location, which will send you to offices around the Atlantic or Gulf Coast, hurricane local statement, which provides the full version of the text product, latest tropical weather, which goes to our tropical page, preparedness info, which is from the National Hurricane Center about preparedness for the particular hazard here, which is wind, awareness info, which goes to a National Weather Service headquarter page, all things hurricane awareness, and BRO home, which takes you back to weather.gov/RGV. Below these 6 choices are 3 important choices. NetCDF file download, which allows you to download the digital data produced by the TCI process, which can be used in applications outside of the National Weather Service domain. KML file download, which opens a file in Google Earth. And Interactive Hurricane Local Statement Text Reader, a widget that provides text to the hurricane local statement overlaid with a background map of the impact area. For the remainder of this virtual tour, we'll be concentrating on the KML file download and the Interactive Hurricane Local Statement. We'll return to these sections soon. In the middle of the page shows the most important information displayed on the TCI, a color-coded Google map of the most potential impacts for each of the 5 hazards that inform decisions to protect life and livelihoods: wind, coastal flood, inland flood, tornadoes, and marine. Click on each tab for the desired hazard. We'll start with wind for now. The default map shows all of South Texas. For the area of concern, in this case the Rio Grande Valley, you'll see different colors, ranging from yellow to magenta. Scroll down a little bit if you need to read the legend, which briefly explains what the colors mean. At this point, you can mouse over the colored zone and click to display the potential impact wording. But I suggest zooming in a little bit to make it easier to find the color differences within the Rio Grande Valley. There are 2 ways to do this. Use the slider bar in the upper left corner of the map, then pan as necessary to focus on an area. Or use your mouse scroll wheel to zoom in or out, and then pan over to center where you want to be. Note that the legend remains in the lower left corner of the graphic and may eventually interfere with your selection location as you zoom in. Now that we zoomed in, we're going to select Edinburgh. So let's pick on Edinburgh, and you'll find the high potential impact appears in the pop-up balloon. Initially, it will be offset to the right side of the image. This is an easy fix. Just left mouse and hold outside of the window and center as desired. Now let's check out Los Fresnos. First, close the pop-up window. Now we'll zoom back out, and let's now zoom back in Cameron County on Los Fresnos and click. Now you'll see extreme potential impact, which descriptions cover the entire screen. This is important because potential devastating to catastrophic impact requires wording that hopefully rouses communities to action before it's too late. Recenter as desired and if needed. Please note on these graphics the select function or finger may not work in every location. As you can see here, there are spots that are just showing an arrow. This is because of the nature of the Google map on the web page. This is no big deal, just a nuisance. If you want to ensure that you get all of your clicks working, just go to the KML download and we'll take care of it there. We'll be talking about that next. But before we do, there's one more section of the TCI page to discuss. The right side, potential impact preparedness. Listed in order from extreme to none, the worded sections you'll find the pop-up windows are shown permanently for each of the 5 tabs. Changing the tab will change the potential impact description. So we'll go from wind to coastal flood and notice the right side description changes. You can check out all the descriptions by selecting each potential impact tab. While it may seem redundant to have the same wording on the right side as it does within the Google Map image, remember that you can read the potential impact descriptions for all possibilities anytime, especially well in advance of a cyclone's approach before watches or warnings are issued. For example, a hurricane approaching the Western Caribbean 5 days from landfall. Now let's talk about these special features. We'll begin with KML file download. Notice how the map changed on the TCI graphic when coastal flood was selected. For the lower Texas coast, the map is elongated north to south to show as much detail of the potential flood zone in order to provide a good first look at the differences, which can be substantial in just a few miles. We'll use this map to demonstrate the effectiveness of data on Google Earth, where you can layer other critical information such as infrastructure, population, demographics, and much more. Before we proceed, make sure you have Google Earth open or at least available on your PC, tablet, or smartphone. You can download Google Earth for free at earth.google.com. Once you're set with Google Earth, click on the Coastal Threat KML link, and then open it, click OK, and open in Google Earth. Google Earth will automatically zoom in as best as it can to the elongated zones that we talked about before. At this point, you may wish to open other significant layers critical to decision support. And please note that when downloading KML files for all 5 impacts, each layer will accumulate. We'll go over that in a moment. But first, let's take a look at zooming into the map we have. Let's look at Port Isabel. Click on anywhere around Port Isabel. If you click Port Isabel itself, you'll get a separate pop-up window provided by Google. We don't want that. So click here in the red, and our pop-up window for high potential impact will appear. So that's for near Port Isabel. We're in high potential impact. Now we can mouse over and further zoom in to the Port of Brownsville, where you can see quite a contrast in just a few miles between high, dangerous impact and no impact at all, where the ground will be dry. At the Port of Brownsville, we click here and we get moderate. To click on anywhere else, you can go to the none, and it'll close the one window, open another for none, and go back to high again if you desire. Now remember that if you download multiple impacts, you want to close out the one that you have in temporary places. So the best thing to do is close this out under Coastal Threat. In fact, I'm going to go here and delete my contents for now of my temporary places to start from scratch. And now I'm going to open up Coastal Threat again. So let's minimize, let's reopen Coastal Threat. Let's open again in Google Earth. And there's our Coastal Threat one more time. Now let's minimize Google Earth again, and let's go to Wind on our TCI page. Let's click on the Wind Threat KML. Let's open it once again by clicking OK. And now you see a bit of a cluttered screen where you have the wind impact to the west, but wind and coastal impact to the east. So you want to try to make sure you only have one going at a time. But if you do have accumulation, no problem. Go to your left side menu in Google Earth and click off whichever one you don't want to see, leaving the one you do. So we'll click off coastal, we leave wind, and we're all good to go. So that'll do it for Google Earth, and now we're going to close that down and go back to our TCI page. If you scroll down the page on the middle graphic, you'll see 2 different radio buttons for Display KML and Display Ping. The PNG image you can click on to get an image that you may have seen before in previous years. This was retained for those who may have systems that struggle to display the Google Map insert, or for persons who may need to use an image to show the potential impact at a glance in a presentation, email, text message, etc. If you right-click on this image, you can see you can send it, copy it, save it, what have you. Move your mouse over it and do that. So that takes care of looking at it. If you want to go back to your KML version, just as easy as pie. Click on KML version and there you go. Now we're going to move to the final part of the virtual tour, the interactive hurricane local statement. Clicking on text reader will bring up a whole new page which looks maybe like the page you've seen in previous years. Remember these? So if you use the tropical cyclone impact graphics, you'll recognize the general look. Now why should we include a text reader? Well, perhaps you need breaking news type information that adds information on a cyclone status, current watches and warnings, or abbreviated preparedness information. Or maybe the current condition of the wind, coastal flooding, inland flooding, tornadoes, marine wind and waves, etc. You'll be able to find what you need here. So let's begin on the left-hand menu. HLS text product, Lower Rio Grande Valley, will bring up a separate window with the full text product that we talked about earlier. But if you click on new information, it will jump down the page and show you new information first, which is part of the overview of the hurricane local statement that is grabbed and brought into this web page for the GHLS, or Graphical Hurricane Local Statement Interactive Text Reader. Below these, you have all the other choices: watches, warning, storm information, situation overview, precautionary actions, which will jump down as well. These four below those first six are very similar to the ones on the previous page, your tropical weather page, which is ours, awareness and preparedness info from Hurricane Center and the National Weather Service headquarters, and you can pick another location from this widget. Finally, you can revert back to the potential impacts page or go all the way home to weather.gov/RGV. The main focus, of course, is the center graphic, and let's show you how that works. Here we have wind, and notice the graphic is blank. Colors were not included since the focus of this page is on text. Slide your mouse over the map to display the appropriate text for the county zone in question. In this case, we're showing the final hurricane local statement from Tropical Storm Don of July 2011, which was the last event to affect the Rio Grande Valley when this guide was created in 2012. Moving from right to left, note how the wording changes. In the black header area, the zone number and name change from water to land and across county and zone lines, as you're seeing here. Below the black header, note the change in words from Gulf waters and Laguna over to land. In this case, the wording over land defaulted to the situation overview portion of the hurricane local statement, since there were no wind or wind and sea headers in the individual segments. During an active cyclone, the wording for wind hazard will always be related to winds and include the latest information on wind conditions as well as potential impact wording, which will be very similar to that shown on the TCI page and the Google Earth page. Switching hazards is the same here as on the TCI page. Just click on the desired tab and proceed as described earlier. We'll close by heading back to where we started. So scrolling down, going to the potential impacts page, which is our TCI page. We hope you've enjoyed the quick tour of the Tropical Cyclone Potential Impact Graphics web pages, and hope that you feel ready to use them to inform your decisions on how to stay safe and protect your family, neighborhood, or community from the variety of hazards that these storms bring. Thank you for joining us on this virtual guide, and we hope for a quiet hurricane season.